All right, so tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about Tyler Lyons, who is arguably the Cardinals' best relief pitcher in the 2017 season. There weren't a lot of bright spots in this year's team, considering it was the second year in a row that they did not reach the playoffs. Juan Nicasio was probably a bright spot, but he was only with the team in September. If they would have qualified for the playoffs, he would not have been eligible. Regardless, let's get back to Tyler Lyons. He appeared in 50 games. He threw 54 innings. Um, his strikeout rate, he was at a career high strikeout rate of 30.9%. His walk rate was a little up from his career rate at 9.1%, but it's nothing to be too worried about. His ERA was 2.83. His FIP was 2.86, which basically says maybe his ERA was actually reliable, considering FIP is a better projects what he's going to be in the future. So the fact that it was very close to his ERA makes me believe that maybe he's going to be able to repeat that. And the bottom line, the value that he provided towards the Cardinals was he basically gave a 1 win above replacement according to Fangraphs. So essentially what I want to talk about a little bit tonight is his repertoire and how it projects to the future and how he's able to be successful. So one of the biggest things that you have to start about is the pitch mix. And the pitch mix for Tyler Lyons is actually pretty complex, especially for a reliever. He throws a four-seamer 22% of the time, throws a sinker 21% of the time. He goes to his changeup not as much as he used to as a starter, so about 5% of the time. And then he goes to his slider, which is his go-to pitch with one strike, no strikes, ahead in the count, behind in the count, really 52% of the time. And one of the things that really appeals to me most is something that I wrote about in an article back when I wrote for the Intrepid STL under Brendan Schaefer, is the magnitude of difference between his sinker and his slider. So if you think about from a lefty standpoint, the sinker is going to tail towards his arm side. That just makes sense. When it comes out of his hand, it's going to tail towards his arm side. Then when you think of his slider, it's going to break towards his glove side. Not too complex there at all, but obviously the sinker is going to ride a little bit to the arm side, and it's not going to drop as much as the slider is going to drop to his glove side, largely because the sinker is going to come in around 90 miles an hour. Slider is going to be low 80s, mid 80s, whatever. It's going to drop a little bit more. Well, something that's crazy about Tyler Lyons is when you look at his dragless horizontal movement, which you can find on brooksbaseball.net, which I use dragless horizontal movement over just regular horizontal movement as much as I can, because it's a better representation of what the batter is seeing at home plate. And if I am trying to judge a pitcher's deception or a pitcher's movement, I'm going to write about it, which is what I do, or talk about it like I am tonight. I want to be able to talk about what they're seeing, not of what the numbers that we see. So essentially, what's crazy about Tyler Lyons is his sinker is breaking to his arm side horizontally 13.15 inches on average last season. His slider is breaking to his glove side 14.2 inches on average, according to dragless horizontal movement. If you include the vertical movement, which I typically tend to stay with the horizontal movement instead of vertical, but we can talk about vertical a little bit. His sinker went down about 20.57 inches if you include gravity, and his slider went down about 38.46 inches. So if you use the Pythagorean theorem between those averages, that's essentially a 32.6 inch difference between the two pitches on average. So that's an incredible amount of movement. That's an incredible magnitude of difference. So one set of pitches that I really want to talk about is Tyler Lyons against the Cubs on September 26th when he faced Wilson Contreras. He threw for strike one. He threw a sinker that went basically up and in, as you'll see on the GIF later. It went up and in, but he just took it for a strike. I mean, it was a first pitch strike. It was a good pitch. It wasn't a crazy pitch or whatever, but it was a well located up and away sinker that basically, if Contreras swung at it, he had no chance. And then he threw a second pitch. It was a ball, but then he came in with a third pitch slider, and this was a 1-1 count, and it essentially broke across the first pitch sinker that was up and in. It started a little, his release point was a little bit different, but it broke across the first pitch sinker, down and in, and painted the inside corner. Absolutely painted the inside corner. As you can see on the pitch cast of the GIF that you're going to see, it was a little up, maybe not the very bottom of the, but when you compare it to that first pitch fastball, I mean, the sequence is absolutely unhittable. And it's not surprising that Willson Contreras, he's a pretty much of a free swinger. He's not as big of a free swinger necessarily as a Javi Baez, but if you can paint the outside corner, up and outside corner, and then you can also paint the down and inside corner with two vastly different pitches at two vastly different velocities, at two vastly different movements, you're going to have success. So I just want you to appreciate what we saw. I hope that you can see in the abstract where you just take out all of the distractions of the movement of the pitcher and of the movement of the batter and the movement of Carson Kelly, because Yadier Molina was injured at this time, and just appreciate how filthy that magnitude is. I already told you that it's 32.6 inches, but until you see it in person, you can't appreciate it. And until you stand in the batter's box like Willson Contreras, you're not going to appreciate it. I'm not standing in the batter's box. You're not standing in the batter's box. But I hope that these GIFs provided by the legendary Cardinals GIFs are able to at least bring you a little bit closer to what they're experiencing and is able to give you a little bit of guidance as to why Tyler Lyons was so successful in 2017 and why I think he'll continue to be successful in 2018 and beyond. The Cardinals are lucky to have him. They're lucky to have not given up on him with his being running out of options. And I hope that the manager, Mike Matheny, and whoever the future pitching coach is, appreciates what he's able to do and the fact that he's able to throw these pitches against righties as well as lefties going forward. Thank you. And this is just video article number 1. I will have plenty more coming forward with our new site. So follow me on Twitter at STL Cup of Joe. Follow Cardinals GIFs on Twitter at Cardinals GIFs. And thank you. Have a great night.